So we can look at the prioritized recommendations in the Trafficking in Persons Report for 2019. This is done by the U.S. State Department. It says here, Trinidad needs to increase efforts to investigate, prosecute, and convict traffickers, including complicit officials, increase proactive victim identification and screening among migrants and asylum seekers, ensure trafficking victims are adequately screened, provide adequate funding for robust trafficking investigations, as in actually go after the human traffickers properly. That provide specialized care to child trafficking victims, increase training on trafficking for NGOs and shelter staff, consider increasing NGO representation to the anti-trafficking force. So that on that point, I have a lot of experience working with not necessarily rape crisis, but I end up in rooms with rape crisis. For the sex offenders registry bill, I was in there was a meeting with all the major NGOs on what input we wanted into the policy. I was also in the Senate committee, special committee hearing on it as well. So these NGOs deal with the grassroots problems, and the grassroots problems in this country, like the kind of horror stories you hear. Like I've heard recently a story. There's this. Say there was this child who was he's in a children's home in Central. Somebody takes him from the children's home, takes him to Hyatt, rapes him in Hyatt. It's like a 11-year-old. Then takes him on a yacht, rapes him on the yacht, and then sends him back. So that goes to show how much. Well, Hyatt, a middle class person can afford a room in Hyatt. Once you touch the yacht, that is a certain a lot of money behind these groups of people. I'm not sure if that's human trafficking or just a general pedophile ring. But I would say I don't think we've ever had a bust of a pedophile ring in this country.
We don't really have a lot of busts for sex crimes at all in this country, do we?
Well, we'll have the little one-off nasty old man rapists, but not.
But that's where the case is easy to solve, where it's like, I guess, a relative or something.
Well, yeah, the incest and such is very difficult because the family doesn't want you to testify.
or family friend, but somebody that know the victim. But in terms of like actual human trafficking, where
well, if there's a Venezuelan girl who have no right to be in your upstairs, your bar, it's kind of obvious what it is. It's like very obvious. But incest and such is a little more harder to prove. You have to have DNA swabs and testimony and all that drama. But I would say what I am advocating for, well, one, like they mentioned in Trafficking in Persons report, to go back here, consider increasing NGO representation to the anti-trafficking task force. The NGOs would have counseled or helped the victims of a lot of these situations. And trafficking is not just importing Venezuelans. It's also like, there's also a lot of children going missing in this country, and they're being trafficked as well, or they may be trafficked just part-time. You ever see, like, there are a lot of stories where a young girl goes missing and then 3 days later, she went by a friend.
Yeah.
In my experience, not all of those is the young girl being truant and exploring her sexuality. I was in court to see a statutory rape case, and 1 minute it's like a 15-year-old. 1 minute she's in the witness box and she's talking about how all these men meeting girls after school in a house near the school, and 1 minute she's talking about that. So that's clearly a sex ring preying on young girls.
Right.
And the next minute she want to withdraw her case. So a lot of some of these cases are the young girl being foolish, and some of these cases are the girl was kidnapped, or the girl was solicited or seduced, or which all of those are legal activities to try and, I can't remember the term under the Children's Act, but like to seek to contact a child to procure them, to entice them into sexual activity or to meet with them. That is also
all that will be criminal, because what is the age of consent in Trinidad? 18, right? So anybody in secondary school, that would be criminal.
Yeah, so all that is going on right now, and what happens is that when the family is too ashamed to pursue the case criminally, so the majority of these cases get swept under the rug. But we have rampant child sex trafficking, rampant pedophilia, rampant child sex rings, and it's being swept under the rug or ignored.
So what can we do about this? Besides, I guess, the basic precautions.
Well, we need to advocate. Even when you take the case to court, we have a 2% conviction rate of rape in this country. That's how bad. So, of the cases that make it to court, 98% of the rapists walks free. So I'm sorry to say, like, when some lawyers, like I see them in chat groups say, "Oh, I'll win my rape case, I win my rape case." You had a 98% chance to win the case, you know, or it will be dismissed. So, yeah, some of those are good lawyers, but like, you know, rape cases are apparently easy to win in this country.
But why is that? They just don't have enough
a million
evidence?
technicalities, bad evidence. The witness gets fed up and withdraws the case halfway. If you like after the 10 years later, the victim wants to move on with their life, they're fed up. They're not going to be a good witness. The jury not going to believe them. Also, on a lot of these cases, is the only witness to the rape is the one victim. It's easy to discredit them.
Right. So it's more of a my word against yours.
Yes.
Point.
It was in this. We also need a lot more funding for the before you get to court. A lot of these survivors have a lot of trauma. So you need to put them through a lot of psychological counseling. And there are NGOs like Rape Crisis and others, Organization for Abused and Battered Individuals, that try to support them, but the resources aren't what it should be. So to even help them enough that their mind is repaired enough to pursue the case, we need funding. It's called victim support. You need to take care of them first, let them be sane and feel safe enough to go to court and put people behind bars. And it needs a lot of money behind it. Wait, back to the previous point, I've also heard on like through the grapevine and the grassroots people, we have a lot of pedophile rings operating in West Trinidad. And like say like the story would be like somebody goes to we have adult parties in this country where they have sometimes prostitutes, sometimes people coming, and there's
like swingers
and such. So somebody went to one of these parties thinking it's a regular adult party, and then he sees a lot of 12-year-olds and 13-year-old children, boys and girls coming into the party, and then he starts to get concerned because this is not what he signed up for. Obviously, he's not a pedophile, and he decides to leave. But the classes of it's in West Trinidad, it's like upper class, very wealthy, powerful people behind these things, and they're not being caught. I've also heard of men being like adult men being raped at some of these gatherings by these people wouldn't go and report it, not just because of the anti-LGBT sentiment in the country, it's also because the people who raped him were so powerful he doesn't want to touch them. So all of these things are happening, and a lot more needs to be done to solve these problems in this country.